The explanation, of course, is ignorance. The buyer who buys at the high price from the entrepreneur is not aware, does not know where to buy at the low price. Otherwise, he certainly would not buy at the high price if he could buy at the low price. The seller who sold to the entrepreneur at the low price is not aware of the higher price at which the entrepreneur will be selling. Because if he or she were so aware, then he would not be selling at the low price. So, the entrepreneur's profit is to be attributed to ignorance. And of course, this is where the general equilibrium theorist says, aha, I told you there is no function for the entrepreneur, because in this case, if it is simply a matter of missing knowledge, then we have been untrue. We have not been honest when we said that everything necessary to sell to the buyer, ultimate buyer, was in the bundle which we bought from the original seller. Because if knowledge is required, then we should have bought the knowledge too. In which case, the knowledge, the price of the knowledge, the value of the knowledge necessary to take us from the original seller to the ultimate buyer, that knowledge too would have been included in the total price paid to the original seller. And of course, this is the general equilibrium view. Knowledge, whatever knowledge is needed, is a valuable commodity. And there is a market for knowledge. There is a supply of knowledge and there is a demand for knowledge. And there is an equilibrium price for knowledge. Many of us here in this room are in the business of selling knowledge. Many of us here in the room are in the business of buying knowledge. There is a price for knowledge, a market price for knowledge, a market price for information, an enormous market for information. So the mystery which we identified with the entrepreneurial role seems to have been dissipated. And by dissipating this mystery, we seem to have dissipated the entrepreneurial role. There is nothing to do. There is nothing for the entrepreneur to do. When you consider what the entrepreneur has to buy completely, including the necessary knowledge, then in fact what the entrepreneur pays is exactly what he receives. There is no pure profit. This is the general equilibrium view, but it is not my view. It is not the view of the Austrian school, certainly not. And I submit that it is not a realistic and not a true view. There is knowledge and there is knowledge. There is knowledge for which there is a demand and a supply curve. There is knowledge for which there is a market price, in which there can be an equilibrium market price. And there is knowledge for which there is no supply curve and no demand curve and no simple market price. And there's certainly no concept of an equilibrium price. And that is the kind of knowledge which the entrepreneur introduces. And that kind of knowledge cannot be subsumed as one of the factors of production which the entrepreneur buys in order to sell. There are two kinds of knowledge. The first kind of knowledge is knowledge about which one knows. One knows that one needs a certain quantity of specific knowledge. I wish to telephone my friend in a strange city. I arrive at the airport and I wish to telephone my friend, but I don't know how to reach him. I go to a telephone booth and I look up his number in a telephone book, or I call the information directory to find out his number. I have searched for knowledge. I have produced knowledge. In order to produce the knowledge, I have to spend some time looking up the number in the telephone book, speaking on the telephone to the directory information. That is how to produce knowledge, which I knew that I needed. I knew that I needed that knowledge. And I knew how to obtain that knowledge. That knowledge is knowledge which the economist can treat as a product in exactly the same way as he will treat a television set or an automobile as a product. One wishes to produce an automobile, one takes together steel and labor and energy, and there is an automobile. One wishes to produce knowledge, one takes a telephone book and 5 minutes of time and a good pair of eyeglasses, and one has the knowledge of someone's telephone number. In this way, one produces knowledge deliberately, in a planful way, in exactly the same way as a producer in an economic system produces other products. That is one kind of knowledge. And I will agree that for that kind of knowledge, no entrepreneurial role is necessary. The market price of the factors of production which produce that kind of knowledge will tend to be exactly equal to the market value of that knowledge in the consumer market or in the market for other factors of production in which knowledge is necessary. So that there is an equilibrium price for engineering services, which is a matter of knowledge. And there is an equilibrium price for the cost of producing engineers, the enhancement of human capital, which consists in acquiring engineering skills. That market is a market for which there is a demand and a supply, and for which we can think of an equilibrium price. But there is another kind of knowledge, a second kind of knowledge. And this second kind of knowledge is a mysterious type of knowledge for which there is no demand. And the reason why there is no demand for this kind of knowledge is that we are unaware that we do not have it. This is what I sometimes call sheer ignorance, absolute ignorance. Not merely do I not know somebody's telephone number, but I do not even know that he has a telephone. Not merely do I not know the telephone number of my friend, I do not even know that I have a friend. That is sheer ignorance. I cannot go about producing the knowledge necessary to reach him if I don't know that he exists. I don't know that my friend lives in this city. I cannot search for him. If I don't know that he has a telephone, I will not look his number up. If I do know that he is here, and I do know that he has a telephone, but I do not see a telephone book, and I do not know how to reach a telephone information directory, then I will not. This is knowledge for which I have no demand. If I am locked up in my office building one night, working late, locked up in the office, I come down to the ground floor and I found the outside door is locked. I bang on the door, nobody lets me out. Nobody hears me. Too bad. I lie down on the floor and I sleep until the morning. In the morning I wake up, I see there's a telephone there in the lobby. I lacked that knowledge. But the knowledge that I lacked was knowledge that I did not know I did not have. Right? If I did not know that I did not have that knowledge, there can be no demand for that knowledge. There is no demand curve for this kind of knowledge. There is also no supply curve, but that is a different issue which I will not go into at this point. There is no demand for this kind of knowledge, there is no supply for this kind of knowledge, therefore there is no standard market for this kind of knowledge. So, if I am knocking on this door trying to get out, and suddenly I remember, did you notice in the audio-visual before, there was someone running across the stage with an electric bulb, right? That electric bulb in his mind. Suddenly, while I'm banging on the door and my knuckles are sore, suddenly electric bulb lights up in my mind, and I remember there's a telephone. Right? That is entrepreneurial knowledge. That is entrepreneurial knowledge. I did not produce it deliberately. I did not set about to produce it. It came to me because I was awake. It came to me because I was not so tired that I didn't have my wits and alertness about me. I noticed there was a telephone. I remembered that it was a telephone. That kind of knowledge is entrepreneurial knowledge. Now, when we say that the entrepreneur buys at a low price and sells at a high price, what we are saying is that the people who sell to him have no knowledge that there is anyone paying more. If they did, they would search for it. If it paid for them to do so, if the cost of search was sufficiently low to enable sellers to find the highest paying buyers, they would do so. They have no way of knowing that there is any possibility of getting a higher price than what they receive. Similarly for the sellers, they do not know that there is a possibility or how to achieve the possibility of buying at a lower price. And consequently, that kind of knowledge is absolute ignorance. The entrepreneur, he notices. He walks down the street and he sees on this side of the street the price is 5, on that price of the street the price is 7. He buys and he sells. What he buys on this side of the street is labor and raw materials and energy and the use of capital. What he sells on that side of the street is finished goods and products. And to buy in order to sell is not a simple matter. There are risks. There are uncertainties. It is not always a matter of buying now and selling now, where you quickly cross the street and without any original resources, you borrow money and buy here and sell there, and then you finish up with some profit. It is not a simple matter. Entrepreneurship very often requires bold, imaginative, hard-headed, prudent decision-making with respect to the future. When one takes a decision, when one makes a large-scale or a small-scale investment decisions for the future, one is buying now in order to sell in the future. And when one buys now and sells in the future, what one sees depends upon one's vision, one's imagination, one's entrepreneurial hunch. One sees something which other people do not see. That is the entrepreneurial vision. And what the entrepreneur does when he makes pure profit is to take advantage of the sheer ignorance which exists in the market, which he to some extent has overcome. And by doing this, he is able to buy at a low price and sell at a high price. Because why is there a difference? Why is there a low price and a high price? The answer is sheer ignorance. The high price market is not aware of the low price market. The low price market is not aware of the high price market. The individual who becomes aware, he brings people together. The people who would be selling in this market if the price were higher, but are not doing so because the price is low. The people who would be buying in that market if the price were lower, but they are not doing so because the price is high. These people are brought together. The entrepreneur discovers a way of giving these people a price which these people are prepared to pay. That gap in knowledge is overcome by the entrepreneur's vision, by the entrepreneur's hunch. The entrepreneur has a role. It is a mysterious role. It is not an obvious role. It is not simply the sale of knowledge. It is the awareness of opportunities which other people have not seen. It is alertness to opportunities which other people have overlooked. And the beauty, the real aesthetic beauty, intellectual beauty of a market system is that whenever there have been pure errors of this kind, sheer ignorance of this kind, this ignorance translates itself into market price differentials which have the power to provide incentive and reward for those who notice them. This is an aesthetic matter. Every error of this kind becomes an opportunity to make profit, and therefore an incentive to overcome that ignorance. Remember, this sheer ignorance that we are talking about is not a trivial matter. It can be tragic. It can be tragic. ships passing each other in the night. Here there are thirsty people dying of thirst. Here there are people with plenty of water. And they do not meet each other. They do not see each other because of absolute ignorance. The entrepreneur and the entrepreneurial role is that of linking together those who are mutually ignorant of each other. And this can be a matter of life and death. It can be a matter of prosperity or the exact opposite of prosperity. What is necessary is for individuals in the market to find each other. A market economy is an enormous economy. Any economy is enormous. Millions of people with different qualities, different talents. How can these talents be brought together in a cooperative way so that every one of the members of society can take advantage of, not exploit, can take advantage of the willingness of other people and the ability of other people to serve other people? How can this be possible? For that, entrepreneurship is necessary. For that, it is necessary to overcome pure ignorance. It is not a matter of systematic search. It is more than systematic search. It is a matter of noticing opportunities. And I repeat, the aesthetic beauty of a market economy, for me, consists in this remarkable circumstance that wherever there is a gap of this kind of knowledge, this translates itself into a market price gap. And this gap in market prices constitutes a profit opportunity. The entrepreneur who sees this opportunity does not have to know, does not have to care about the lives, the satisfactions of the people from whom he's buying and selling. He does not have to. All he needs to do is to be aware that he can benefit himself. By doing so, he will notice those opportunities, and in this way, he will provide the enormous social benefit of bringing together individuals who might miss each other completely. This is the entrepreneurial role.